Aloha from Yemaya Indira at the Embrace.life. There is two things that I find fascinating about the inner child healing work. Not only two things, but right now this week, two things that I'm fascinated with. One is when we first start working and getting in touch with that inner child at the very age where the primal trauma happened. All the grief, all the feelings of that inner child are coming up to the surface in the somatic healing trauma work. But then there is also the deep sadness of the adults that realize that there's been such a long gap from the time that inner child, experienced the pain to the time the adult was able to connect and, accept the healing, engage in the healing. And so there is that extra layer of grief that comes in, from the absence of connection between the little one and the adult self. And so that's need to be present in your awareness when you're doing this work, because you might not realize that there are two different types of grief. And then the other thing that I'm also noticing lately is really the importance of the age the trauma happened at. And, some of us have like two different ages where there's been like two big things. Like for me it was 5 and, maybe 15. Yeah. The ability to engage in the healing work is very different when the trauma was 5 years old, or the trauma was at a teenage time, like 12 to 16, let's say. You can notice that when it happened at a teenage time, the self-sabotage and emotional patterns of resistance are a lot more complex and subtle. Like there's maybe some like inner rebellion, going against the therapist, for example, because better, right? It's like a teen, right? It's like we know better than someone else, than the adults. So that also comes into play. When you're working with the little one, maybe something that happened even pre-verbal stage, and it becomes really difficult to express one's feeling when one is being triggered in that wounded place. So then you'll see an adult throwing tantrums and losing their ability to communicate verbally what's happening to them emotionally. So that's something personally I decided to pay a lot more attention than I used to in my work with people. It's like really figuring out the age and the level of growth, that cycle the person was into. I hope it makes sense and that you find that fascinating as I do. Thank you and blessing to your own healing journey. Aloha.